Released in 2002 for the Nintendo GameCube, Super Mario Sunshine brought the 3D Mario series from its roots into the next generation. With its bright and colorful graphics, simple yet memorable story, and extremely fluid mechanics. No pun intended. As with any game and part of a major Nintendo franchise, people would eventually take interest in speedrunning the game. An any percent speedrun of Super Mario Sunshine entails completing the 7th episode of each of the 7 main stages, which then unlocks Corona Mountain, the final level in the game. Timing would always end on the final platform ground pound in the Bowser fight. The game forces you to complete the shines in their intended order, so given that the game only allows you to skip Yonker Hills Episode 1, there would ultimately be 50 shines required to finish the game, including Airstrip and defeating Bowser. The first ever recorded full game speedrun of Super Mario Sunshine was completed on July 22nd, 2004 by a runner named Dragorn with a time of 1:59:49. This run's notable for being considered the first sub-2 completion of the game. However, it's also worth noting that this run was what's known as a segmented speedrun. In a segmented speedrun, the runner records the speedrun one segment at a time and is allowed to redo a segment over and over again until the desired result is achieved. Segmented runs were more popular back in the early days of speedrunning, as capture cards weren't exactly the greatest and probably couldn't record in high enough quality for a long period of time. So people would question, how interesting could the run itself ultimately be? Well, Dragorn himself left his own comments about his thoughts on Mario Sunshine as a speed game, and his first paragraph reads as follows. In retrospect, I would say this was a rather poor choice of a game to speedplay. The 2D Mario games have warp worlds and such that allow one to streak through the game in about 10 minutes. It takes 10 minutes just to get through the game's opening cutscenes.
True.
Even SM64 has tons of glitches and shortcuts for beating the game in under a half hour. This game, however, is the epitome of linearity. You can't do shines out of order, you can't skip them, except for the first one in Yonker Hills, and you don't even get to pick what shines you collect. You need the 7th one in each level. And this game just isn't conducive to shortcuts like SM64. So was Dragorn right? Is Mario Sunshine not worth speedrunning?
Just to play
Are the cutscenes just too unbearable? Is the whole game simply hover to win? Well, today, I'll be covering the history of how the hidden potential of Super Mario Sunshine speedrunning became realized over time. I'm Average Trey, and this is the world record history for Super Mario Sunshine in 8%.
You know what I'm talking about? Nope, I don't remember that. I don't remember that zone.
Oh, you have to like go down and like clean his like teeth and like they're gold and shit. It's so weird.
So as you might imagine, Dragorn's segmented 159 has very unrefined movement. He seemed to have an irrational fear of water sliding, which, at its top speed, is the fastest form of movement in the game. The strategies used for Shadow Mario shines were also quite interesting. All jokes aside, this run definitely deserves respect for being completed in a time where there were literally no resources or community for this game yet. It's worth noting that even in 2004, the blooper race shortcut was known about, as well as hovering through the Ferris wheel in Pen 5. And also, the red coins in Gelato 6 were still pretty annoying. A few years would pass, and no any percent runs would be completed. All Sunshine activity related to any percent from late 2004 to 2008 would strictly be IL, theory crafting in the Speed Demos archive, or SDA forums, or glitch hunting.
Damn! Wow. How long has he been around speedrunning? My man. God damn.
It's also a sick profile picture for the time.
Well, he's still using that profile pic. That's how I recognize him.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Or SDA forums, or glitch hunting. In early 2009, however, Theoradel decided it was finally time to put together a solid segment of the game, utilizing better movement and strategies to improve upon Dragorn's 159. On January 10th, 2009, Theoradel finished his segmented run with a 1:54:44, according to SDA timing, an astounding 5-minute improvement. Cool. It's important to note SDA timing because it's actually significantly different than the timing method used today. You see, SDA does their timing from first input as opposed to console reset or file select, so the timing would actually start on the first Peach text box. If I were to convert Dragorn's and Theoradel's runs to modern day timing, it would be 2 hours and 55 seconds and 1:55:50 respectively. So anyway, Theoradel mainly improved the time by being much more liberal with water sliding. There still weren't really any established strategies to traverse the floodless stages or defeat Shadow Marios quickly, but there still were a lot of improvements throughout the run nonetheless. At the time, this run seemed pretty darn solid, but there was still a lot of things preventing Mario Sunshine from being considered a highly respected speed game. For example, the eel boss fight felt like kind of a crapshoot. The casino was a randomness nightmare, and there were just so many goddamn cutscenes. Would people ever get around these kind of issues in years to come? 2009 to early 2011, a lot of important skips and tricks were found that would shave off significant time. The first of which being the Penna 1 cutscene skips discovered by a Japanese player named Tateo. In July 2010, he discovered that you could skip both Mecha Bowser cutscenes by simply exiting an area as you were transitioning into the cutscene. The reason this works is that time still progresses in the game during the fade out of exiting an area, and if a Mecha Bowser cutscene is triggered during this fade out, the game gets confused, and the result is a cutscene skip. This saves about 3 minutes overall. Unfortunately, when applying this method to any other cutscene transition in the game, exiting areas simply brings you back to the title screen. The next major breakthrough, discovered by Axon in October 2010, was Yoshi's skip in Pianta Village Episode 5. Normally, you're supposed to unlock Yoshi before being able to complete all of Pianta Village, due to the entry of the secret stage being blocked by Jelly that only Yoshi can clear out. This meant that originally the 80% route forced you to complete Pinna Park before going to Pianta Village, in order to fulfill the requirement of unlocking Yoshi, completing Episode 4 of Pinna Park. There are 2 spinning slot machines to deal with, on top of a finicky tile flipping puzzle that opens up the way to the secret entrance. Thanks to a discovery from Mano Cheese in February 2011, all of the random elements of the casino can be skipped by simply gaining enough height to climb over the top of the curtains. Without this skip being possible, Serena Beach would have undoubtedly been the most annoying world in an 80% run. Other smaller skips were also found during this period, such as Mole Skip in Pinna Park Episode 2, a banana clip in Serena Beach Episode 3, some major abuse of invincibility frames to skip a large portion of Pianta Village Episode 3, and a spring clip to skip the boss fight in Oki Bay Episode 2. So you know how I mentioned Japan earlier? It turns out that the Japanese were the original pioneers of what can be considered the modern era of SMS speedrunning. There were 2 dominant 80% runners that emerged from this region, Tobo and Chibi, who later changed his name to Sine Cosine, and I will be referring to him as such for the remainder of this video, just so that everyone knows that I'm not referring to... yeah, you get the idea. Both Tobo and Sine Cosine...
Wait, are you telling me...
that I'm not referring to...
This wasn't in the Super Mario Sunshine though, was it? This iconic "Would you please be quiet" thing, wasn't this like some weird PlayStation 1 game? It was like fucking... Tomba 2.
Tomba 2.
Oh, his name is Chibi. Have you seen this moment?
No.
Oh my god, I figured you wouldn't. This is the most iconic moment in all of speedrunning. Some candy in the bits, Jacob.
Yeah, you get the idea.
Tier 1
both
Turbo.
Tobo and Sine Cosine began learning SMS speedrunning in 2010, and both strived for a run that was out of this world, to a degree much, much higher than any Western runner could even hope to achieve. The first notable modern 80% record using all the previously mentioned skips was 134.50 by Tobo in October of 2011. Unfortunately, the history of world records between Theodore's 155 and Tobo's 134 has not been documented. It can safely be assumed that the Japanese players were single-handedly developing the 80% meta over the course of 2010 to early 2011. But Tobo manages to pull off a 4-tooth eel, meaning that he cleaned off the 4 middle teeth before provoking the eel into eating him, and thus manipulating him to not go back into his hidey hole and waste a buttload of time. He also successfully pulled off the cutscene skip, which occurs as long as you're flashing red from taking damage at the same time that you spray off the final tooth.
Nice. 134 ain't too bad.
In a couple of months, Sine Cosine would fire back with an 80% speedrun that would set the bar extremely high. In December of 2011, Sine Cosine achieved a time of 133.01. This run was mind-blowing, to say the least. Such insane levels of consistency and execution had never before been seen in SMS. As a bit of an aside, I remember before I got into speedrunning SMS myself, as soon as I saw those windmill wall kicks, I knew this guy didn't mess around. Due to the nature of how Nico Live, a Japanese streaming website, handles broadcasting,
my god, I remember that
both
website.
Tobo and Sine Cosine used a timing method that was acceptable at the time, later frowned upon, and then eventually deemed unacceptable on modern leaderboards. It wasn't segmented, nor RTA, but they used what's known as time attack, or TA. A time attack run is a single segment speedrun that allows the runner to pause the game and the timer, and the runner can then resume the game and timer at any point that they choose. The reason this was convenient for Japanese speedrunners is that Nico Live forces the broadcast to segment at 30-minute intervals. Because of this, Japanese SMS speedrunners would complete 20 to 25 minutes of
What a
gameplay
weird
and at a
feature.
given text box, pause the game and timer, and then segment the stream. While this did solve the issue of Nico's broadcasting system, there was a clear advantage to doing this versus doing an actual RTA. It wouldn't be until the latter half of 2012 that new world record runs would arise, as sine cosine's 133.01 was just that good for the time. Tobo got the record back on August 17th, 2012.
Nice. I like how happy he is.
The route used in this run was new, as Bianco Hills was completed first again, and Rico Harbor was done really early in the route, right when it's unlocked. He also utilized advanced ship movement in Pinna Park Episode 5, which has an extremely tight window to hover to the boat, side flip to the sail, and then spin jump to the catwalk.
Rivalries and
Sine
speedrunning are
cosine then
legitimately
got a
cool.
time of
Rivalries
132.31
anywhere are cool.
on October 7, 2012. But unfortunately, he either unlisted or removed the video from his YouTube channel. Tobo proceeded to tie this time on November 8th. Later in the month, on November 22nd, Tobo improved the record by 24 seconds, getting a 132.07. A notable strat used in this run was an improvement to a previously known banana clip in Serena Beach Episode 3. In May of 2012, your boy Graham discovered what would come to be known as the banana split. By backflipping into the glass wall and timing a throw, this served as a much faster method of clipping into the pool room.
That was
Amongst any
fucking
healthy
cool.
competition of a speed game rising in popularity, some
Thanks to the
shady
bits
business is
Ooh,
almost
the
guaranteed
5K
to
bits
occur.
Nitro.
In
Thank you,
2012,
Nitro.
Racing on Speedruns Live, or SRL, was becoming very popular, and Racing SMS Any Percent was no exception. Racing was all in good fun and wasn't taken too seriously or observed with much scrutiny. That is, until one such race would change this forever, as it would cause figureheads of SMS to begin to crack down on those who don't provide
He's a
adequate
prime
proof
Shinobu.
of a race they participated in. There is a cycle that was considered to be the stuff of legends at this stage in Sunshine's development. The chance that any of these chucksters decide to stop, as well as the amount of time that they're stopped for, is entirely random. Ideally,
I've seen
the
Elden Ring
chucksters
speedruns.
early
I've done
on are
Elden Ring
mostly on a
speedruns.
fast cycle with little to no stopping time, and the very last chuckster is on a slow cycle, having to stop a lot and for an extended period of time. If the last chuckster is slow enough that he's in this corner when you get to this section of the level, it makes a cycle that saves a minimum of 20 seconds possible. Before it was known that you could mash the Y button to reverse a chuckster throw, the chance of making this cycle was deemed to be nearly impossible in an RTA. This very cycle plays a pivotal role on this scandal. On
Check out the
December
Mirror's
14th,
Edge run at
2012,
GDQ.
this
Why?
Any Percent race took place. Now, you'll notice amongst these results that there was a runner by the name of Ramel123457 who got disqualified. Well, to put it simply, Ramel spliced a mid-131 run for a race, and streamed the video playback as his race proof.
What a
He didn't do this just out of
bastard.
nowhere, however. He had consistently good race times leading up to this moment, which were also most likely faked just to make his supposed world record race time seem more realistic. The early chuckster cycle that I previously mentioned went on to be known as the Ramel cycle, as he made this cycle in his spliced run. From here, Tobo went on sort of a tear, while Sine Cosine couldn't quite keep up. Tobo improved his own record a few times, managing to get a 131.58 on December 29, 2012.
Not bad,
barely
not
achieving
bad.
a 131 before
What is the
2013.
current record?
He
Like
then got a
115,
131.38
so
on
it's not, like,
February 15,
significantly different
2015.
now.
And keep in mind that all the records
I
up to
could be
this
wrong,
point
though.
have
I'm
been
pretty
either
sure it's still hour
segmented
plus.
or done with the TA method of timing. It seemed like Tobo was such a dominant force, but it was only a matter of time before another runner would rise up to the challenge. That's where Samurai Man comes in. Samurai Man, a speedrunner from Finland,
He's a resub
began seriously
freak.
running SMS in the summer of 2012, and he improved fast. Like, really, really fast.
I'm sure it's not as wacky as you claim.
Oh! Yes.
Samu managed to clutch out a
That was a
PB
big
by a
build-up.
minute. This was also the first time in history that the Any Percent record was done RTA as opposed to TA, which meant that it was done in one sitting without ever pausing the timer.
Thanks to the
This
bits,
record may have
Jimmy.
only been by 11 seconds,
Welcome.
but there is no doubt that it left a huge impact on SMS speedrunning as a whole. He truly proved that you don't have to be Japanese to be the best at Sunshine. Tobo would quickly return to the 80% grind, and he took the record back by 3 seconds just a couple weeks later.
That
Once
son of a
again,
bitch.
using the TA timing method. He
I
then
just
beat his
stretched my
own
legs out.
131.24 by 1 second exactly a month later. But the important thing about this run was that it was the first time Tobo managed to get the record using RTA. No video footage currently exists for either of these two times, but the
Yeah, then they don't
131.23 stood for a while,
They're fake.
considering that Samu's former record was extremely good for his own standards, and he would need to practice and improve his skills before once again taking the record. Small movement optimizations were being developed, but no new strats were really found during this time period. After a couple months of grinding, Samu managed to drop the record down by another 15
Of course
seconds.
I watched the ADQ cringe comps. Well, not recently. I haven't watched any for the last few
Yes.
years.
There we go. A new world record. A new world record.
Samu pulled this run off immediately after losing 2 PB pace runs in a row to Noki Bay episode 6.
Yes!
That's so sweet. You love a good comeback story. Oh,
You can't be serious. What?
what a silly thing to mess up on. You make me sick.
Not only is the shell secret considered to be the hardest secret in the game, but it's also at the very end of the run, so it can definitely create a huge mental barrier. By this point, there was something on everyone's mind, as the times seemed to be approaching a certain special goal.
Sub 130.
That sub 130 is possible, Kappa.
Sub 130 would be the ultimate crowning achievement of SMS any percent, but it would just barely be possible with the knowledge at the time. Within less than a month, Tobo managed to get the first ever 130 time with a 130.45 on August 17th, 2013.
45、45、45、45、よっしゃ、45やったろ、今。45だった、45だった。よしよしよしよしよし。
Damn, I never
There
knew
really
Super
weren't
Mario
any
Sunshine
significant
speedruns were so
discoveries in
active
game
back in
for
the
the
day.
majority of 2013. Just a ton of grinding runs or races,
Yeah, they're pretty
and a
long
community
compared to Super
expanding
Mario
at an
64.
alarming rate. The rivalry between Japan and Europe, Tobo and Samu, was raging on, and other runners were sneaking up in the background. Yamata,
And Distortion.
Stelzig, and Pyroshade.
And Tobuscus.
Each representing a different country. Samurai Man later achieved a 130.49. Though not world record, it showed that he was more than capable of it. Samu would pull
Did I
in
know
over
that
1,000
sharks
viewers
poop?
every time he streamed
Well, I assume
attempts,
they did.
as viewers eagerly anticipated the low 130, if not sub 130, any percent time. Well, on September 3rd, 2013, this happened.
Ooh, just missed it.
Well,
This guy has like a big pop off and then immediately
This went
calm.
down as one of the most legendary speedruns of SMS in history. Samurai Man accomplished this run with
Is there some
essentially the same knowledge that was around for months, just with insanely consistent gameplay and fairly solid luck throughout. But
are you doing?
how much did luck, or uncontrollable factors within the game, play a role? The variance in PD
Oh, good. I was
patterns
just
in Bianca
curious.
Hills episode 5 can realistically cost over 40 seconds, even up to a minute over the optimal pattern. And keep in mind that with less polished movement, Ramel cycle happened around 1 in 10 times, assuming you played perfectly. The Manta Ray fight in Serena Beach episode
Oh,
1,
I remember
which
that
was
boss.
barely
The boss is such a
explored,
bitch.
was essentially
The Manta
random
Ray.
and could cost you a ton of time.
Oh
And
my
finally King Boo, who can randomly give you extra
You have to, like,
cycles
water all
costing
that
around
shit
7
down
seconds
and
each.
spray it over.
Top level
Yeah.
runners would almost need to get good enough luck overall, otherwise they would have to play out of their
Boozy
mind in
best.
order to compensate for bad luck. Amidst the race for sub 130, quite a number of strats were being developed towards the end of 2013 that would definitely help. Tobo himself discovered 2 strats within Pianta Village episode 4. He found that it was faster to keep holding the chain and pushing the chain chomp forward, as well as manipulating the chain chomp to go into the pool area, and with a well-timed grab, make him fall in. Awesome Games Done Quick
Paper
2014
Mario
came
1000
around,
year
and
old.
as
Yeah,
always
what
with
the
these
fuck
large
that was.
marathons, much of
Probably
the
not.
attention
They
within
gave
the
the fucking
speedrunning community
slapper,
shifts
though.
away from
Yeah.
the usual streamers grinding runs to supporting or even attending the event itself. Well, it just so happened that a couple days into this marathon, while everyone was focused on the event and least expected it, this is what transpired in Japan.
Oh my god, he's gonna fucking do it! He fucking did it. He's a goddamn hero. He's a prime Shaggy.
On January 6th, 2014, Tobo proved that sub 130 is possible with his run of 129.50. A run that achieved
And the
the
game
SMS
was
community's dream
retired
time, and better yet,
forever.
didn't even have Ramel cycle. This started to lead to a hive mind belief of the inevitable fate of Mario Sunshine. It felt as though there was nothing else to really explore with the category, with the exception of a little known cutscene skip discovered way back in October 2012 by the famous Japanese SM64 runner, Honey. Honey skip is a trick in which you clip into this building, and if you manage to die on the same exact frame you enter the cutscene trigger for Pinna Park, it will skip the cutscene.
How much
The
time
reason
does
that you
save?
die is
6
that there's
seconds?
a death plane in most of the out of bounds areas that will kill you if you're touching the ground for the duration of 1 second. Even though Honey Skip was kinda known to be possible for
actually
over a
heard of
year,
Honey Skip.
there were no reliable setups yet created for it. People thought that the setup would be too slow for it to be worth it anyway, and you can really see why if you knew that the original setup involved some janky Y-cam return alignment. Top level competition seemed to die down, and with the exception of SRL races, motivation for running any percent was somewhat declining. Tobo's magnum opus, the sub 130 run, would mark the end of an era. Gelato Beach. Gelato Beach in an any percent run sucks. Gelato 1 is okay.
If only you could skip
know,
the intro
secret of
cutscene,
the
you'd
sand
save like
castle
6
or
minutes.
whatever. Sure, I'll give you that. Episode 2 sucks. Episode 3 is more or less an
sand
auto-scroller. Episode
The
4
sand
is more or
bug.
less an
Fuck that
auto-scroller.
thing, dude.
Episode 5 is more or less an auto-scroller. Episode 6 sucks. And episode 7 is Shadow Mario. There is an interesting aspect to Gelato Beach, however, that doesn't apply to any other world in the game. The episode 8 Shine, the Watermelon Festival, exists in every episode of the world. Since the beginning of SMS speedruns, people would occasionally theory craft ways to clip into the glass and collect the shine in episode 1. Exclusive to the Japanese version of SMS, you can use Yoshi in episode 6 to clip through the ceiling and dive ground pounds into the shine. People using NTSCJ had a slight advantage because of being able to avoid Gelato 6 in any percent, but it really didn't save that much time, since you still ended up doing the same number of shines. Obviously, years went by
thank you
with
for the
no
raid.
success in finding the skip, and it seemed as though it
Wild
was hopeless.
Latina? Welcome.
Then one day,
We're learning about
along
Super Mario
comes the
Sunshine.
Spyro speedrunner. That's right, the long sought-after Gelato Beach skip, or GBS.
Hey, wait,
was
this is the
found
same
on
guy we
February
learned about a
21st,
while back.
2014 by Tobal1, who
Right?
doesn't even run SMS. This just goes to show that sometimes having a fresh pair of eyes is exactly what you need to solve a problem.
Okay,
And
this
if
guy
he
just
or
goes
she is
around
already a
saving
talented
game
glitch hunter,
speedruns.
that also helps. While this may seem like an obvious solution, the reason it took so long to find was due to how precise the setup is. Not only does the angle require you to grab a straight edge and align the camera forward, but you must align the camera from this direction rather than this direction, otherwise it still won't work. The race was on as a mad dash to get some
Wow,
free world records
Twitter.
ensued. After gaining
Even in
enough understanding of the
2014,
skip
man,
to
we
at least
haven't
get it within
evolved.
10 attempts or so,
I
Samurai
believe it.
Man started
But
doing
Elon
runs
Musk
as
will
soon as
take us
possible.
there.
The first run that Sammy
taking us
completed
to
using the
Mars,
skip
Goddamn
resulted in a
right he is.
You think we're gonna have
1:24.24,
Mars
a
Twitter?
5.5-minute improvement
God,
using a skip that saves
imagine.
10 minutes. Obviously, there was a lot more work
What
to
do,
be
like,
done.
Mars
I
Twitter
previously
look like?
mentioned that the United States was the
Exactly
weakest
like
region by a
this Twitter.
considerable amount,
But, like,
but
red.
that wouldn't stop
I
Paper
guess,
Mario 1231
More
as he
pompous.
fully capitalized on this moment for the US to finally hold a world
All
record at
fools
any
will live
percent.
there will be like, oh my god, cannot believe that. I hate when people don't
What the hell?
vacuum the carpet.
If I don't get a 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, I don't even fucking care.
Damn, this guy's getting aggressive. He's getting mean.
I don't know what to do. My point one.
Oh. It's very underwhelming solo. You need better hype man. The guy just says nice job. You
So the
kidding me?
end cutscene doesn't count?
What?
Paper managed
Yeah,
to
it
sneak
just
in a
wants the
record for
cutscene
America,
triggers.
and a 122 at that. And as expected, a mere 20 hours later, Samurai Man got a time of 122.35. An improvement, yes, but still not even
Here's
close
a
to meeting
chapel.
his full potential. Tobo quickly got a run of 121.45, but of course, this still wasn't good enough to be worth highlighting. Within a couple of hours, Samu not only achieved a 120.36, but then a 120.32 immediately after that.
It's like the 4-minute mile thing, man.
Yeah, once you break it
All on
one
February
time, everyone else can
22nd.
break
The
it.
original GBS setup, which lasted for all of one day, involved using 2 coconuts, one to disable the hitbox of the blender, and the other to do the skip. As you can see, by this point, the 1 coconut method already became the standard. The very next day, Tobo managed to get a 120.08. So within just a couple of days of GBS being found, the record had almost been dropped down to a sub 120 time. Samu and Tobo were the only runners who could realistically get a sub 120 at this point, so it was only a matter of who would be first to get it. Well, 1 month later, Tobo finally got the first sub 120 in SMS any percent, but he didn't just get it by a little bit. His time was actually a 1:19.34, completely smashing his previous record by over 30 seconds. This run was an extremely solid run with the strats that were known at the time, plus the addition of GBS. A great surge of popularity for running SMS came directly from the discovery of GBS, so it makes it all the more insane that the 1:19.34 stood for over 5 months without being contested. This is perhaps when Tobo, already being a dominant player, was at his most dominant. A few weeks prior to performing this legendary run, Tobo delivered this tweet that states, "Tobo the WR hog," and at the time, this tweet really couldn't have been more true. Shortly after this record, Samurai Man decided to take a brief break from playing SMS, and the other top runners would need to seriously grind if they could even hope to get the world record. Over the upcoming summer months, several runners were improving their skills and closing the gap between themselves and the world record. Previously, I mentioned how Honey Skip was considered to not be viable for any percent speedruns, but Stelzik went on to develop the first reasonable setup for a run. By aligning Mario's forward position to where his shadow is first visible, standing in a specific spot, and ground pounding at the very end of a neutral hover, you can buffer a diagonal sidestep into the cutscene trigger and hopefully die on the exact same frame that you enter it.
Amen, brother.
Stelzik would sometimes like to grind offline attempts so that he could watch videos or streams during runs to take his mind off the pressure. On August 1st, Stelzik uploaded an extremely heartbreaking video that showcases an offline world record pace run that died on the Bowser fight. Unfortunately for Stelzik, he just couldn't quite handle the pressure. Chokes of this magnitude can psychologically be tough to overcome. As the month of August went on, Stelzik couldn't even manage to get a 119, let alone world record, despite proving beyond a reasonable doubt that he could do it.
What?
Well, there is a good ending to this story, as Stelzik's hard work did pay off.
He's got popping off. Maybe I'll glitch hunt in Super
He
Mario
achieved a world
Sunshine.
record time of 1:19.24
Get that record
on August
under
25th.
15
He
minutes.
finally overcame his mental block, and for the first time since late 2012, someone other than Samurai Man and Tobo, and Paper Mario, held the any percent record. About a week before Stelzik took the record, Samurai Man started doing some SMS any percent runs just to see how he would do, but wasn't entirely sure if he would come back to serious grinding or not. He actually managed to get a 1:19.36, just 2 seconds off Tobo's former record, 4 days before Stelzik's 1:19.24.
Didn't know he moved into a cabin? Yeah, I love nature, so I just wanted to be close.
In the latter half of 2013, Samurai Man and
got a
Stelzik
little
became
log
European
cabin.
rebels over the 120 shines record, which is essentially the 100% category for SMS. Viewers were excited to see these two trade the record back and forth, using many Zig Frogs or Samu Kappa eyes to show their support. That's right, Tobo had been grinding any percent attempts this whole time, but coincidentally, he achieved a 1:19.08 merely a day after Samu got world record. Not only was this a large improvement to the record, but in addition to not using Honey Skip, this run also didn't have Ramel cycle. Tobo's record was truly daunting, as some of the strategies that were used seemed so crazy. This would mark the beginning of the journey to 118 for all the top runners. Many American SMS speedrunners were racing any percent regularly, sometimes on a nightly basis over the next dozen months or so following the discovery of GBS. When racing was extremely popular, there was no denying that the US had a lot of solid players, but no one was really a world record contender. As fate would have it, one particular American was on track to break this mold. I will just let the following clip introduce him.
Playing DD destruction, dude. Bots do that.
Yes!
Damn!
Yes!
It's getting louder every time.
Yeah.
This is Capelon, a speedrunner from
Lord.
Utah. He began running
I
SMS
love the
during the latter half of
passion.
2013, but the incredibly
He just won
active
the
community that
fucking
arose during
Stanley
2014 is
Cup.
what really motivated him to become a top-tier player. Capelon was very serious about the grind, and was building up consistency quickly. He would often win any percent races amongst the other high-level SMS runners, and this video from Q_QQQ2 proves it.
first and then go to some of the other stuff. I just don't like to leave things unfinished. This face has just been staring at me all day.
More importantly, the USA would leave its mark in SMS history.
Yeah! Yes! Yes!
Mm-hmm.
Yes! Yes!
Good work,
I got
Keflon.
118!
Oh my god, this is loud. Holy shit. Well, that is significantly louder than I expected.
Capelon was the first American to put in the work to get a solid
Makes me
world
some
record
pizza.
time. This run
And
was
yeah, I've seen
truly
the show, Hard
inspiring,
Train.
especially for the Americans within the SMS community.
Zach, you did it!
Dude, world record hug, dude.
Thanks, Yusuf Aaron.
World record hug!
Oh.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
This was an incredible
That's
way to
so
start off
fucking
2015,
wholesome.
and the competition would only get crazier from here. Another Japanese player that I've mentioned a couple of times earlier in this video, Yamata, was a top 5
He's a tier
player
1
for a
beast, bro.
remarkably long time leading up to this point. Yamata is known mostly for his skill in the 120 shines category, but of course, that skill can also translate to any percent. Yamata ended up tying Kaf's world record on February 7th.
Someone just brought this up in the chat again, and I just want to ask, because I didn't look any further. I'm sure I could, but I'll just ask you. The guy who set himself on fire at the Capitol building, did he plan on dying from it? Was his plan to literally self-immolate himself to death? Apparently he set himself on fire at the Capitol building to protest climate change, and I feel like going up there and literally fucking killing yourself doesn't really do much to further that goal. It was really common by the monks during Vietnam. But if I remember correctly, like that famous photo of the monk who set himself on fire, I don't think he died from it, right? Didn't he... I guess this could just be a myth. Didn't he get, like, the fire put out right after the picture was taken? Oh, he did die. I did not know that. I had always heard that he, like, got saved or something afterwards, or maybe I'm just completely misremembering.
Toba was back on top, but he wasn't yet satisfied with his record. At this point, you might be wondering why even some non-Japanese runners like Kafalon are using the Japanese or NCSCJ version of the game.
Shorter text.
Well, there are some minor version differences when it comes to the 80% category. NCSCJ saves roughly a third of a second every time Del
Thanks,
Pino
you said
Plaza
J.
loads, and this adds up over the course of a run. However, NCSCJ loses nearly 10 seconds on Serena Beach Episode 6 due to a much stricter goop cleaning requirement. The PAL version, which is native to most other
Use it
countries
range.
outside of North America and Japan, has the fastest text speed.
Would you rather
when using
drown or
Italian
get set on
text.
fire?
That being
Drown,
said,
and it's
the
not even
Delfino
close.
load
Getting
times
set
on
on
the
fire is the
Japanese
most
version
painful
still the biggest
experience a human
factor.
being can go
At
through.
this point in Sunshine's development, NCSCJ saved roughly 12 seconds over NCSCU, and even less than that over PAL. So overall, the version differences are extremely minor, but most people still found it necessary to play an NCSCJ to save every little bit of time that they could. Kafalon didn't give up, as he pushed the record down another 6 seconds on April 2nd.
Nice, Kaflon.
Can I put this call on
Thanks for
stream?
some chickens in the prime
now.
page.
World record! World record! World record!
I can't believe this is even an argument. I believe there was a study done, like, of the most painful things people can experience. Fire is far and away one of the most painful. Because it just, like, the entire time, it is constantly hurting. The entire time. It is literally burning you to death slowly. It's slow like drowning, but a million times more painful. It just starts burning your fucking nerves. Like, it's not even close. Like, drowning, don't get me wrong, seems really miserable because since it's so slow and, like, choking for a long time. But fire, it's that same, like, duration. Like, it's still a long time before you finally die from it. But it is literally burning your nerves the entire time. It is an incomprehensible pain. I don't even know what brought this up with the fucking Super Mario Sunshine speedrunning. But yeah, fire is, I'm pretty sure, by far the worst. And a good point, you literally are suffocating too when you're getting burned alive. It's not like you can breathe, so you're still suffocating, just like with drowning, but with more pain.
So let's introduce Average Trey, aka me. I come from the state of Kansas, and at this point, I was 19 years old. I was known for being the 120 shines guy, having held world record in that category extensively, and running 120 shines at AGDQ 2015. However, I knew that if I put in the effort, I could potentially get a sick 80% time, and maybe even world record. Throughout the month of May 2015, I challenged myself to grind nothing except for SMS 80% until I either got a 117 or the month of May was over. Just to make things a little more special, I also decided to use Facecam and called this month the May of Trey's Face. Going into this
it's
month,
so
I was
sweet.
over a minute behind Cap's world record, but I was confident in myself to improve.
As you sub 7
It's
in the
important to
Prime
know
Royal
that this
Tier
is
1
the
card
point
tier.
where the timing standard in the West officially changed to what we currently use today, file select timing. This method starts the timer on selecting start on the file select
Sub-Zero.
screen, rather than soft resetting the console, and saves around 7 seconds. Japan, preferring to stick to tradition, still uses reset timing to this day, so all Japanese players' times get converted as a result. Had file select timing always been the standard, then that would have meant that Samurai Man was in fact the first person to get sub 130. Anyways, I present to you the results of the May of Trey's phase.
Who could forget that one? Damn, this is quite the montage here. Tyler.
With only a few days to spare in the month of May, I not only achieved the 80% record, but this was the first
Makes
time
you
that
some
anyone
brains.
has simultaneously held the record in the 4 main categories at
damn.
the same time.
4 out of 4, US Trey.
2015 was, without a doubt, my strongest year in speedrunning, and it was super exciting to achieve a time that I was constantly doubting that I'd ever reach.
Dude, I Shrek'd the cat. For now. But he'll be back.
That is some
Alright, he'll be
Giga
back.
Chad shit.
And oh, how right I was.
Thanks,
Because
Yusuf Isaac.
only a couple weeks later, Cathalon improved the record to a
Prime
118.17.
Juice.
I actually didn't like. I thought this was like shitty Corona of all time.
Caf was on the grind for 117 at this point, since that seemed to be the peak time that SMS 80% would ever reach. On June 28th, Cathalon was on the run of his life. Things were looking good leading into Noki Bay, but in the very last episode before Corona Mountain, things took a turn for the worse.
Oh. What a disaster.
How? No. I'm sorry.
This run could have been 117, but Cathalon choked the Shadow
Thanks,
Mario
Yusuf.
quick kill,
Nope.
costing him about 12 seconds. This was definitely the most depressing world record in SMS history,
well, thank you,
and
Leech.
something
Welcome.
that
Thanks, Yusuf
Cathalon will
Murphy.
probably never live down.
The shittiest run ever.
I'm sure he's over it by now. It's so unhealthy to hold a grudge like that.
Thanks for watching, people.
Oh.
So you may be thinking, well, yeah, that's sad and everything, but there's nothing stopping Cathalon from just grinding more attempts and finally achieving the legendary 117. Well, that would be true, except at this point, a revolutionary discovery for
Prime
any
Supreme.
percent was in the works. A majority of the group of SMS runners known as the Good People
Oh,
were
what a
responsible
cool
for
name.
putting the pieces together
Sounds
and
like a
making a
cult.
certain skip and pin apart
Nice.
possible. Dan Salvato, famously known for his work in modding Super Smash Bros. Melee, created a practice codes hack for SMS. Using USB or
Wait, is
SD
that the guy
card
that made
loading,
Project
one
M?
could load the game with these codes and use them to reload stages instantly by holding a certain combination of buttons and exiting area. These codes were extremely useful for making practice more efficient, cutting out the wait time of exiting and re-entering a level. Another feature includes position codes,
He
which
made
allows the player to
DDLC.
save himself at a specific location using the left D-pad, and then using the
Okie
right
dokie.
D-pad warp to this point from anywhere in the level. On July 12th, Sided Williams asked Clayton SMS
Yusuf
to
David.
test something using practice codes and
In
pin apart.
Pichu.
He wanted him to position code himself in the
tinfoil.
loading zone for the pin is 6 secret. Pyroshade discovered that platforms created from spraying an enemy with Yoshi's juice could pass through these
As Yusuf
invisible
Bigfoot
walls
and
into the
small.
unloaded park. It would have to be a platform created by a purple Yoshi, as pink platforms only raise up vertically and orange platforms are stationary. It
I
soon
forgot
dawned on
platforms
Cathalon
raised at
that in
all.
Pinna Park Episode 2, there are bullet bills that get shot at you in series of 3, and these bullet bills will even shoot into the unloaded park if you're standing in this area. Cathalon then realized that by standing on horizontally moving Yoshi platforms that are able to pass through invisible walls, Mario could actually stand on the platform and be unaffected by the unloaded park. And it was
Well,
at
that's
this
fucking
point,
huge.
people knew that this skip could actually become a reality. So here is how the skip should work in theory. First, you would unlock Yoshi by completing episode 4 of Pinna Park, then go to episode 2 to perform the skip. You would eat a durian in order to turn Yoshi purple so he can create platforms that move horizontally. Then, you would use a glitch known as fruit storage to store a fruit that turns Yoshi orange. In order to do fruit storage, simply
Damn, this
grab a
seems
fruit
kinda
with Yoshi's
deep.
tongue and dismount Yoshi before he actually eats the fruit. This allows you to eat the fruit from any point in the level that you'd like. After storing a
Ace of
fruit,
Bitzel.
use another fruit to clip into this door. The standard black bullet bills
Seen
will
it
never
everywhere,
give you the
yeah.
proper angle to reach the Yoshi go round, but there are special purple bullet bills that can spawn randomly, which have homing properties. And bam, you've effectively skipped the entirety of Pinna Park Episode 5.
Is it
The
that
first
big of a
person to
time
actually pull
save?
this skip off on console was Kenny Cola. So there you have it. You can now access Corona Mountain with 43 shines instead of 44. It
You
goes by a
save one
variety of
shine.
names, but it's most formally referred to as Early Yoshi Go Round, or EYG. If this skip is done optimally and with first cycle purple bill, it could save up to a minute. But here's the
That's-
thing,
oh my God,
people
yeah,
thought
Jesus,
this skip would
it's
only
so
be possible
negligible,
on
it
the
feels.
NTSC-U and PAL versions of the game, as NTSC-J doesn't have fruit storage. But a day later, Jared's Giants discovered that if you set the fruit that you used to clip through the door in just the right spot, Yoshi could eat the fruit through the door. Not only did this save time since you could use one fewer fruit in the setup, but it made this skip possible on every version of the game. Later that same day, Cathalon got a 117.55,
Oh, man, now the
making his
fucking
quest for
floodgates have been
117
blown wide
bittersweet,
open.
as he never quite managed to
Thank
get
you,
it
Lake
without
Shore
any major
and
skip.
Biscuit.
The biggest problem with EYG was readily apparent, the luck factor. It could literally take over 10 cycles before any purple bill showed up in some cases, as you're never guaranteed to get any purples on any given cycle. This skip adding yet another major element of luck to the run was extremely troublesome. On July 24th, Nindide left his first impact on SMS any percent world record history, getting a 117.50. Dide actually skipped 118, which is nothing short of insanity. No one could have seen this coming. This dude, who streams with compressed splits and doesn't even record his game audio, just came out of
Thanks for the
nowhere and
gift sub,
swept
Pie
up the
Guy.
80% record. And people wondered, why is there no sound? Well, the answer is, because there is none. A couple weeks passed with no new records, which is surprising considering there was so much time that could be saved. EYG was just so difficult and random that it was hard to clutch out a world record run. I took the record back on August 11th by finally getting a decent run with EYG.
Didn't get cooped. World record.
Thanks for sub Trey G.
USA.
Waskin low.
USA.
Nepal. Nepal is back.
If you compare my bullet bill setup to setups in previous records, you'll notice a pretty major difference. I was actually using the high bill setup, which is considerably worse than the low bill setup. The
Why?
reason I was still using it is that I was, stubborn, simply put. Just don't be like me, okay? People were just losing so many runs to bad luck on EYG, which made any percent more brutal than it ever was before. On September 4th of 2015, I was on the
No,
run
this
of
is
my
average
life,
Trey.
and then
That
this
was Trey
happened.
G.
Really? Is that going to be the death of the one cycle? Oh shit! No ledge grab?
Despite choking what could have been a solid run for the time, I still ended up getting a new record of 117.32.
Thanks for sub
World
Run.
record with the worst late game of all time.
God, this guy's a fucking machine.
God damn it.
I was pretty disappointed to say the least, knowing what this run could have been. Well, wouldn't you know it, Tobo once again took his throne back, getting a 117.25. It's truly amazing how Tobo had
But
been
how is
around
there
for
no
5
video?
years at this point, and was still able to break the record every now and then. Tobo had this strange sense of pride regarding his times, however. Being that he is Japanese, he stuck with reset timing along with the other Japanese runners. So to him, his 117.25 was actually 117.32, which only tied my record. He wanted a time good enough to beat the record by at least 7 seconds. Because of
Yeah, I
this,
guess he
he
could've
still didn't
privated
feel it
it.
was necessary to highlight his run, and kept on grinding to improve the record further. It wouldn't be a true SMS
some
history
calcium.
video without mentioning a Japanese player named Zelpiku Kirby. He is undoubtedly the best TASer
Prime
of Sunshine,
peripheral.
making an any percent tool-assisted speedrun of 109.10 back in April
So that's
2014.
the theoretical
On October
best.
22nd, Zelpiku discovered what would come to be known as
Sounds
rocket
easy.
storage. You can cancel the blast off of a charged rocket nozzle with the landing animation from a jump, and then sidestep off a ledge to use the stored rocket. The height gained from this is even higher than a regular rocket, and furthermore, you can charge a rocket during the ascent to gain some additional height.
Damn, okay.
Wow, that was
Thanks for
quite
sub-
a run.
Jay.
They're cheering for me. They're cheering for my sub 140.
It's always
Bouncy
so
Boy
cool
started
to
running
watch
Mario
the old
Sunshine
runs
in the
compared
summer
to
of
new ones.
2014, and over the first year of his streaming career, he would stream practice and attempts of SMS daily with few exceptions. B-Boy improved extremely fast due to not only the amount of time he put into practice, but the effectiveness of his practice. He was a major proponent of individual world runs. IWs are useful for practicing consistency that individual level practice alone can't exactly provide. At the
we're
advent
on
of
a trip.
EYG, he was already a top 10
Content
player,
trip.
and the new skip further motivated him to push the brink of what he knew he could accomplish in SMS.
Whoa! I really thought that was gonna be 009 soundscape or sound system for the ultimate throwback. Exclusive hammy.
Oh my god!
But he wouldn't stop there.
Oh, he got a taste of the top and he doesn't want to go back.
Yo, we did it.
Oh, $1 million
that was like the
goal.
easiest PB of my life.
Finally, a time had been achieved that's over a minute ahead of the record before EYG was discovered. But this only raised the question, how soon would 116 happen? Surely a time of such magnitude would create a mental block for months to come, right? Nope.
Oh my god, they're all going so hard! The boys have digivolved. Thanks for some Weenie Hut Jr. This looks hard. Yeah, I honestly find Mario speedrunning any of them to be the hardest. The hardest routes.
So there you have it. Bouncy Boy established himself as the best
no.
runner of SMS 90% at the end of 2015.
Oh my god! We did it! Holy shit.
B-Boy amassed an impressive following on
It's code
Twitch,
defense
thanks in large part to his passionate dedication to SMS 90%. The 116.49 lasted for a significant amount of time, as it wasn't until the latter half of February that it would finally be beaten. Tobo was truly a machine. It's rare that such an old-school player of any game can hold up to a much more difficult modern standard. They often say that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but this old dog could adapt to just about anything. B-Boy had been on a hiatus from the game ever since his 116, but when the month of April came around, he decided to return again to take the record back. Only 3 days since coming back to streaming attempts, he finally got a run again that successfully got Ramel Cycle. There was also an improvement to the honey skip setup, found by How to Cantaloupe, that is still the current setup used by most people on the day I posted this video.
Can't teach an old ass
was
new
starting to
shit.
become standard. It had been known for years that this could be theoretically faster, but no one had good enough movement until 2016 for it to really save time. Oh, and by the way, this run was a new record.
Yes! Yes!
I am not going to be attempting this speedrun too hard for me.
Took 3 days.
And too long.
How did this happen already?
It's always exciting to watch Nindidi play any percent when he gets a run going because of the strats that he goes for. If he's playing well, he will generally continue to keep playing out of his mind. When he's playing poorly, he'll tend to make some questionable mistakes.
Oh my goodness!
In this run, however, he wasn't even fazed by his poor early game.
Hey!
Speedrun death
But he
loop.
wasn't quite satisfied with this time.
As I said early in the run, this run sucks. I'll get 115.
He's give some pie guy.
Tomorrow. Oh, actually, I can't play for the next few days.
People were certain that 115 would spell the death of SMS 90%, if only because the amount of luck throughout the run made so much of an impact on top players. Conveniently, in the summer of 2016, Zelpiku Kirby found some really useful stuff in regards to early Yoshi go-round. Previously, this trick was always performed in episode 2 because there's a door you can clip through, and additionally, bullet bills that can be used as platforms. But what if I told you that there is an alternate way to perform this skip in episode 3 that doesn't rely heavily on luck and is faster than the usual method? Well, Zelpiku found just such thing. He discovered that if you create platforms at just the right height and sidestep under them with Yoshi, you can clip through objects. In episode 3, you have to utilize the tiny
These guys are
Soren
fucking
stews.
genius.
Here's how it works. You eat a durian with Yoshi and throw a papaya through the doorway for later use. Then lure 2 of the Soren stews over to the side of this doorway and use one of them to clip into the wall. The reason you can't simply walk through the doorway is that it contains the loading zone to the park. Once you've clipped into the unloaded park, you lure the other stew towards the invisible wall. Spray the stew with a properly aligned angle, eat the papaya that you threw into the doorway, and ride the platform.
Why do they need the papaya?
This method was super useful not only in saving a bit of time, but also removing the stupid amount of luck that went into the previous method. Using pin of 3 EYG, which was coined 3YG, B-Boy managed to get a new record with the run that had an extremely slow time out of early Bianco.
Oh.
Hey! 116.08. This run had a 17-minute Bianco 5. Are you fucking kidding me?
SMS was on the cusp of seeing a 115
Yep,
completion,
I saw
and
Quantum
Bouncy Boy,
posted a new
Tobo,
vid, I
and
just haven't
Ndide
watched
all
it
had the
yet.
potential to get it. The
But I
strats
know
that
what
top
it's
players
about.
could go for to save
It's
1 to
getting
2
crazy.
seconds were getting pretty ridiculous. I would like to reiterate just how crazy Ndide is. He will truly go for whatever it takes to be a little more optimal than everyone else. And this is the turning point at which all of that patience with going for the best strats really started to pay off for him. The final strat that I would like to formally talk about in this video is the fastest cycle that humans can go for in Noki Bay Episode 6, the Shell Secret. Referred to as Ham Cycle, it's possible to go fast enough in the first section to actually reach the side of the green peg on the spinning block. As seen in this IL from 2015 by Pyroshade, no one would even think of going for this strat outside of IL attempts. Except for Ndide. On July 23rd, Ndide got the first ever 115 in Sunshine any percent.
God damn. He's so clean.
But in his eyes, there was still much more potential for improvement. Considering that 3YG was a thing, and luck was no longer an issue in Pennant Park, he was only scraping the surface of how low he could push his time. After achieving 115.54, Ndide was already saying that 114 was possible.
Almost
People
like a
laughed at him,
prophecy.
but little did everyone know
Anakin
that Ndide was
Skywalker.
about to prove him wrong.
Oof. Jeez, we got fucking Dragon Force coming in now. He's running popular in the use of injections. Ooh. If you made a horror game, what would it be? Literally nothing but jump scares all the fucking time. I'd make the most gimmicky horror game ever. Just for the sake of it. Just unapologetic. The tension would be like jump scare to jump scare. That's how you build tension.
Nice.
Just machine guns of jump scares. Oh, is the video still loud? Alright, no better.
Holy shart, dude. Is this
Holy
114
shart. Ooh.
Oh my god, dude.
It was pure insanity what Ndide accomplished in 2016. As it turns out, it was a brilliant strategy to go ahead and learn the hardest strats immediately, as it clearly helped him in the long run. Before Ndide started rising up, no one could have seen it coming that a 114 would possibly happen at all, let alone in 2016. Some of these strategies are very all or nothing, and it can be hard to justify going for them if it only saves like 1 second. But a single second saved on multiple levels can add up very quickly. Ndide seemed to be slowing down the momentum a bit now, as a few months passed in 2017 with no new PBs. Other top runners had to simply work towards closing the gap between their times and the daunting 114.58. A Japanese runner named Leviton was improving surprisingly fast in the spring of 2017. Leviton had been around as early as 2013, but he took a break from the game for about a year.
My thoughts on
and came back
oatmeal
even
raisin
stronger.
cookies? They're fine.
Leviton became good enough to even contend for the world record, which he proved in his 80% speedrun in 115.05 without Ramel cycle. The nuttiest thing about Leviton is that he went for relatively basic strats for a top player, but was extremely consistent at pulling them off in a single run. He could achieve times that were within 2 minutes of his sum of best segments, which is pretty much unheard of for any other runner. Well, on May 9th, Leviton got a 114.55 and finally took the record. Kind of. Not officially. Unfortunately, he completed his run offline,
That shouldn't count
and
then,
he also had a recording issue that prevented him from having video proof.
Yeah, that doesn't
count. As a result, his time was not allowed on the official leaderboard, as world record times must have proper video proof, no exception.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I feel like there's almost no good reason anyone could give for why a speedrun should be accepted without a video. Like, there's literally no argument that can possibly be made to say, like, no, I actually don't need the video to prove it. You can just make shit up.
All we got was a screenshot of his splits on Twitter, and a glint of hope that someone could finally best Ndide's long-standing dominance. People were a little annoyed, knowing that there was a time that was unofficially better than the current record displayed on speedrun.com. Later in the month, however, that would no longer be an issue.
Who did it? Damn, he fucking slapped it.
Yes! Yes. I did it.
Thanks, resub, Evan.
Nindide had actually been
Evangelion.
grinding 80% for the entirety of 2017 up to this point, and finally, after 5 months, improved his PB again. That is a true testament to how insane the 114.58 was. But funnily enough, this record actually had a death in Bianco 6, which to me only further shows how insane Dide's skill level is.
Fucking god.
Ooh, that must have lost like 5 seconds, if not
And
more.
as of today, that's where the 80% record stands, at 114.40. SMS speedrunning
Thanks,
went through a
resub.
variety of eras in which different
Zigzag.
runners reigned supreme. And I'm certain that as time goes on, there will be a new
Thanks,
generation
Ghosty.
of Sunshine runners that takes the game to an even crazier level. The potential of how high the skill ceiling can get is even higher than people might realize, as the movement in this game lends itself to a seemingly endless amount of possibilities. Mario
Yeah, the
Sunshine
movement is nice,
currently
it's just
the
I remember
third
the
most popular
controls
game
not
on
being as tight as
speedrun.com,
Super
only
Mario
behind
64.
Mario 64 and the Ocarina of Time. SMS could have easily fallen under the radar if not for its amazing community involvement over the years.
That was great. Chat's saying it's a 113. So there's now 4 runners who have got sub 114. You beat it though? Fuck no, I can't beat it. I was just saying I was hoping there'd be like some crazy shit that was found to get this speed run like really like low.